Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our last tips and tricks, Dalim tips and tricks of 2018. As we've done whenever we've been able to, we've tried to make this one always a recap of what we saw at the Worldwide Technology Meeting. Sometimes we don't, because of timing, we haven't been able to do it in December. It lingers to January, I think, like last year. But we had some time this year, so I tried to put together some slides just to talk about a little bit of what was shown. I can't go too in depth with a lot of the stuff that's here because it would take time, and we will be doing specific webinars coming up this next year in 2019 to go over some of the newer features. Just to let everyone know, the basics of what was shown was mostly on ES6 and Twist 9. From what they said, they're targeting Duo timeframe, so April timeframe for a beta release of ES6, and probably a full release by end of next year. Right now, we don't have our own server running, but Dalim did make access to their demo server running it. And I'll show you a couple of things on that, but it is alpha, so not very stable. So to start, I'm going to hit on just some quick points, talking points that were brought up during the presentation I thought might interest some people. So for single sign-on, they've now finally added SAML 2.0. We had CAS and NTLM before, but they've now added that. So we've had a couple of requests for that over the last year, so that should make a couple of customers happy. One of the big things inside of ES6 is going to be an upgrade to Elasticsearch 6. This is going to provide faster query times and definitely some new tools inside of Kibana that actually will broaden the use of Kibana as we get it from Dalim to more of our infrastructure, and I'm going to go over a couple of those. One thing to note, if you want to keep your indexes, both your log index and your object index, you will have to go through an upgrade of the Elasticsearch indexes from the version 2 that we currently are on. We'll have to upgrade 2 to 5 and 5 to 6. So it will take a little bit of time. Always remember that if you're not interested in necessarily keeping your log index, you don't have to go through that process because you could re-index from the database for all the objects and start your log index from the beginning. A couple of the tools that I mentioned, this is kind of an infrastructure tab. From my understanding, this is beta inside of Kibana itself and Elasticsearch, but basically it's going to allow us to connect and monitor things like maybe on a web server or Tomcat or just even different things in our infrastructure as a whole, file server specs and stuff like that. You can create dashboards that look like this for a web server, so it gets you some good information of what's going on. Again, this feature, Elasticsearch says it's currently in beta, so it could change drastically. I'm not really sure how it differs a lot from APM, which is Application Performance Monitoring, which will be built in as well. APM existed before in Elasticsearch, but was a paid-for feature. It wasn't part of the free tools that are given by the version that Dalim gives out. It is now part of the free version in a limited basis, but you basically, again, can monitor the performance of your servers. So in this case, I think this is a web server that I just created on Dalim's server real quick. So it shows the request per minute, response times, things like that. So it can really give you good information about the health of your systems. So I know we use Metadata here. We've done Nagios as well. So this is another tool, one tool that will be able to reach all that. And noticing back here, you can also do things like Logstash and everything. So you can write your twist logs into Elasticsearch through Logstash and look at that information as well. So great new tools. Looking forward to really get my hands on them and learning more about what we can achieve with them and adding that to our customers' systems. On the Amazon S3 side, and this is actually an ES5.5 update. There's not really any changes they spoke about specifically for ES6, but ES5.5 with the latest patches, the very latest patches, I'm not sure exactly what the patch version is, I should have gotten that, but it does have what they consider their full support for S3. So the one thing we were missing was monitoring. The monitoring wasn't working. It does work now. They still have issues with speed if you go into a directory that's got a lot of files. They're talking about like over 100 files. It can bog down a lot. One thing to note if you're messing with the S3 stuff, do not turn on the insert metadata option in your volume when you set it up. If you put that on, what happens is you create an endless loop. So ES will write information into the metadata of a file, which updates the file. AWS sees the updated file, sends a notification back to ES, which then updates the metadata and causes another send of a notification, and it'll keep looping. I did witness that myself. So found that and mentioned it and was brought up that do not turn that on with S3. What they're using to do the monitoring is basically a SQS. So you just set up an event for your S3 that notifies things on the creation of an object or deletion of an object, and that sends a notification to ES, and ES will act on it. And this is just the SQS screen. Other connection protocols that they're working with, we know they've continued to add SFTP support, so it's now able to be used for input channels and storage volumes. I think we had storage volumes before. CMIS really not changed as we've seen it. I mean, they're continuously working on improving it, especially from a speed standpoint. Those of you who maybe use a CC connector plugin. WebDAV will be supported by ES6. From what I was told by Gautier, it's actually currently usable on, I think, the very latest beta patches of ES. I don't have that installed yet on my demo server, so I couldn't get that working. And their demo server needs to open up a specific port for WebDAV access. They still say on the Mac client side, it seems like it's pretty sluggish, but I have some other client software I want to test with it, so I will be testing this and update everybody in the coming weeks. ZFS file system is now fully supported by ES. This is something that we ran into because of some things that ZFS has that are unique. And from what they said, and I'm looking forward to testing this because we had customers trying to work with the email input channels, but they've stabilized the email input channels both in Twist and ES, and they're compatible with Gmail, Outlook, and more. So we'll see.
Fred,
yes.
For that in particular, are you saying that's fixed in the current version, or it's something that's fixed in something that's to come?
I think that's going to be for ES6, in the way it sounded. I don't think we specifically asked, and that's actually a good question, and we need to ask them. And this is just what WebDAV access would look like. One of the things that delayed them a lot on this was really the permissions. So just see the permissions will be fine. You'll only be able to see the files you're supposed to be able to see. I think last year's Worldwide Technology meeting, Jacques introduced the Thesaurus concept that will make it into ES6. So Thesaurus will allow you to do searches on files or metadata, basically using synonyms, different languages, and that they created a GUI to actually be able to modify the thesaurus. You basically import existing thesauruses into ES, and you'll be able to have access to those and use those. So it'd be really nice to do synonyms searches. They've improved the contact sheet some. We still want more, but you can put now your own logo, as well as in the bottom, and their screenshot didn't have it. Their demo site, this is broken on, so I wasn't able to test it or look at it. But in the bottom, you can see custom metadata down here, so you can add custom metadata now to what the contact sheet will look like. We've requested, and several people in the room requested this. They still don't have hyperlinks. So we want to be able to click on an image and take us into ES. So hopefully they take that serious, and by the time it's released, we do have that feature. One of the things they brought up, and they've added now to video generation, as we know, we've shown the last couple of years, ES is able to take in the video file, create a preview of it, and then annotate it. One of the big knocks on it was it took a long time, sometimes depending on the video, to create those preview videos. They've now introduced H.264, which, as they say, is really a good enough preview for most browsers and significantly speeds up the generation of the previews in ES. One of the UK resellers who has been playing with this already said he took a video that had taken them, I think, over 25 minutes to create a preview, and they did it in 2. So that's a huge improvement, and that is something that you do need to change in the process params to only be H.264, because you see there's other choices where you can choose all formats as well, and that will take time. They've added some additional actions. One of the things that, let's just say, just user actions. So one of them, and you can kind of see it here in the screenshot, is for the iPad, there's a multi-selection user action. So if you choose that, then in an iPad, you can just touch the images and select multiple images to act on them, whether it's to view or to update metadata or anything like that. So they're adding things like this to help with the usability on an iPad. There's also a new feature, a new section that basically allows an upload of a document only if that document's name already exists in ES, and then it will update or revise that document. So you can kind of see the look of that as you upload. If the file doesn't exist and you upload a file, it will error on that file, and information will tell you that the file doesn't exist. Then if you upload the file with the regular upload, and then use the user action again, you'll see the third one's done because the file did actually exist and would revise it. And again, they went to another image that didn't exist and all that. I'm not sure why that feature was needed. I don't think we had any customers ever requested something like that, but I thought it was interesting. And here's one that was long in coming and will make a couple of my customers and myself very happy, is we now have revision management. So we're all used to the revision management window we currently have, where you can basically, the only thing you really can do in it is change what the active revision is. Actually, I'm going to show that. My demo. Ooh. There we go. So here's a file I got 5 revisions on. I'll bring them a revision management window. Let's see if this alpha version behaves, because I just tested this before and this worked fine. Let's see. Let's just do it this way. Yeah, it's like the quick key doesn't work right. So you see now we have our 5 revisions are listed. We have the ability, of course, to make one the active revision. We can download revisions from here. We can change the order of the revision. So we can go up and down. So actually change the order, which is kind of odd to change the order of revision. Or we can choose one of the revisions. Maybe I should leave that as default. choose one of them, and remove a specific revision. So now I have 1, 2, 4, 5, 3 is gone. Okay, that I want to remove that revision. So maybe it was a revision that my users uploaded and it was a mistake, completely wrong file, and I just want to get rid of it. I can get rid of it. And you notice it now went to 4 of 4 revisions. So it actually changed the revision count on the files and only have 4 revisions now. That's a nice feature, but my main reason for always wanting revision management is I have customers that sometimes go nuts with revisions. They have impatient users that upload files over and over again because they didn't think it came in. And they wound up with 10, 12 revisions. And I always wanted to clean that up after the fact. So if I look at this workflow I'm running here, and I have this document step. And in the document step, there's a new action called revision deletion. And I can tell it only keep the current revision. So basically I've reached the end of the workflow. I don't care about my old revisions, get rid of them. It's a nice way to clean up your projects when they're done. Or basically you can use a script to get rid of specific revisions. So you could get rid of specific revisions if you always know you want to get rid of the first and second revision and keep anything after that, something like that. So we can do that, and basically if you look, I got my 4 revisions on this file here. If I approve it, goes on to the last step. I now only have 1 revision to that file, cleaning up hard disk space, which is kind of always where that comes in. As it is, we have stages and all that stuff saved up, so ES gets, is a big user of hard drive space. So it's a nice way to clean up after your projects are done. Obviously, that could be set after a milestone with a timer where you only clean them up after a week after the project's done, whatever your thoughts are on how you'd want to use it. But good to finally have that in there. And then as shown at Duo, those of you that went to Duo or have seen it, planning and delegation will be part of ES6. And it will be part of from what they're saying right now, be part of enterprise project tracking. So can't really do a demo of this right now because it would basically take our whole time allotment. We will be doing one on planning and delegation. As soon as ES is probably beta, I'll plan on doing one. So obviously, first thing we have is delegation. So you'll be able to say who is a delegate for this specific user. So a user can set their delegation, or a sysadmin can set their delegation. They'll have a default delegate who takes over if they're out sick or didn't come into work. You can set whether you want to resend approvals, notifications, notify the person that they're now delegate, but you'll also be able, by specific roles that a user fulfills inside of projects, maybe give different delegates. So for instance, if I'm creator of a project, from a role standpoint, then if I'm out, Mike Moscato might be my delegate. But when I'm just an approver role, then it's Alex, not Mike. So it'll take all that in, it'll get all the notifications right, and just this is a nice addition to ES, something that we've had asked by several customers. So just delegation alone will be nice to have. Then the actual planning will be built on tasks, which are basically milestones. Not really much different than a milestone. Duration for right now, and this was a discussion that we got into there, and I'd love everybody's feedback if y'all can. They said the default duration time as hourly. We've requested, and several of us in the room requested that it be by minute. That there's no reason to limit it by hours. Even if in the Gantt chart it shows it only by hours and percentage of hours, we should be able to set duration to minutes. There's no reason to artificially limit it. And then that task can be a step approval or just a full approval, upload approval. So really just like a milestone. I mean, not really much different. It is actually kept with all the milestones in a planning folder. The workflow is basically going to be the project workflow. So you'll be able to take these tasks, add them to your project workflow, and that'll help track those things. And again, you're approving these moving step to step via maybe it's an API call where your CMS system is updating it, or it's a manual approval or upload of a file, whatever it is to move from task to task. No different than just building a project workflow and thinking of it. In fact, many of our project workflows will probably just be modified, change what the milestone is to a task milestone, and the planning will almost be built into it. And of course, you have the resources, the people, users, groups, or roles that are part of that. The calendars for those. So you'll have this new function of calendars inside of ES, and the calendars can be from an organization level down to the company, all the way to the user. And then you can define extra hours, vacation time. All of that takes into account with the delegation, with the resource usage, and will help in the planning of projects. And of course, you have the Gantt chart. So just like you would see in Microsoft Project or OmniPlan, just a true Gantt chart that you can add and relate tasks to other tasks, have them dependent on other tasks, have slack between tasks. Just a closer look at that. Percentage completion. And then you'll have a Kanban as well to actually see what tasks you have to accomplish and then kind of move those along in progress, pausing them, finishing them. So giving us kind of the normal tools that people are getting or are already used to working in, like Kanban and Gantt charts, and they put that into ES. Got some updates on the HTML5 viewer, and a couple of these are going to be long-awaited ones. They're going to make some people pretty happy. So keyboard shortcuts are finally going to be in the HTML5 viewer. You'll be able to open up and view up to 16 documents, and you'll be able to do style and font annotations. So I'm going to show a little bit of that. So if I select and open up a few images inside of the dialog of the viewer, you'll see it'll come up, looks just like what we're used to, so no real changes in the interface standpoint. But now there's a new function where you can come in here, hit the gear at the top, open as, and you can open as 2x2 block, 3x3 block, or 4x4 block. I'll go ahead and do a 4x4 block. And as Dalim is very quick to point out, that is using up 16 render engine at one shot. So if you're going to use it, if you can allow users to actually open up 16 images like that and do a synchronized documents by right-clicking. So if I zoom in, every one of them zooming in, that's killing your renderers. We saw it as everybody started playing with this. We kind of took the demo server to its knees. So there is a preference. You can limit how many you allow open. So if there's no reason users need to open up 16, you may want them to just do 3x3 or whatever they might need. You can set that to do that. And you can, if I need a different image here, I can just come in and choose a different image, swaps that image out. So you're able to quickly swap which images are in which one, so you can view those as needed and compare color. I mean, the biggest use of this we've had is maybe like publications where they're looking at a story and they want all the images in the story to have very consistent color and able to view all of those together. Another nice thing they have inside now is the ability to take a note, copy it, and paste it into another window. There was some discussions on better use of this where you could do multiple paste, like paste it into images you choose 3 or 4 instead of having to go to each one and and continue to paste, but at least it's there. That should make some users happy that I've always wanted the copy and paste functionality. So you're able to do that. And you can do that. You don't have to be in the open as mode for that. You can actually just be in the normal mode and copy and paste and switch in between slides. So I can come in here and go to a different one. Yeah. So come in here and paste a note in there. So it's just on a page wherever you need it. It is specific to, if I remember right, it's specific to the session though. So if I close dialog and reopen other images, it's no longer in the clipboard. Other thing that was there, if you look, we now have the ability to, if I can select this, now in Firefox, this should work. Yeah, of course it's not going to work now. You see I did some styling on it. So basically you're just supposed to hover over and it'll allow you to modify the text and bold it, italicize it, whatever the need is there. Let's see. They've done improvements on double page views as well. Again, this is one that was kind of holdover from the Java version. The Java version, you were able to say view spreads except for the cover or ignore the cover. I forgot the exact name what the option was, but you were able to view two pages next to each other as you needed. They now have additional view options. Inside of ES, sorry, I was silencing my phone. So you're able actually to view the spreads next to each other, if I can get the zoom right. And what you have is basically the ability to say automatic, which the automatic mode is supposed to take the flat plan into consideration. You can go to cover mode or just two-page mode. And then you're able to also merge. So that'll take different things into consideration of how you want it viewed. And of course you have the ability to do whatever you want. So a long-awaited feature. People have been wanting this since they had to really move to the HTML5 version. So we're really happy to see that. We're happy that they added the control to do it different ways. Nothing actually we'll show quickly here, and I don't remember if this is the exact way I had it planned. The kind of virtual books and creating enriched files. If you do that now, or if you've wanted to do it but maybe you didn't because it always required the Java version, they've now moved that into kind of the viewer here. So again, this is our viewer where we can do annotations and approvals and everything here. But now there's an edit function, and this isn't fully working on this server, but you're able to add your enrichment here. So if I wanted to add a video and add a video file, set to autoplay loop, here's where I can't get the asset linked correctly, but I'm able to set all the properties that I need to. If I want to add another enrichment, so whether it's a hot link, and the thing with all these is basically going to be you're able to preview those right in this viewer. So if you enrich it and you share this view out to someone, they'll be able to see all the enrichment you created in here and approve those or anything. So it's really nice for it to be in here instead of the Java version. No, I forgot to show one thing here. Yeah, that was me doing a presentation, which was a lot of fun to do during the event. Shortcut manager. So there's your shortcut manager. I know that's going to make a lot of people very happy. So you're able to set them, change them. So if I want to do reject all, Shift Command R, there it is, and it's set now. So very nice to have that finally. Another thing they've added is video subtitle tracks. So you can now have a sidecar basically of a subtitle track for a video. Basically, you use the linking or the relationships between the movie and the subtitle, and you'll be able to do annotations on the subtitles themselves. And we've had web banner support before. Basically, if it's HTML5, you could play inside of ES and you could just create an annotation on it. What they've done now is they've added the ability to pause it. So you can actually pause the animation and replay the animation and then annotate it on that paused event. I can't show this because this function does require a plugin that Dalim's developed, which is not available to us yet. So can't really do that. They did demo it, but they wouldn't make the plugin available. But nice feature, something that's been asked for from a few customers. And I should have been playing animation. ES collaboration. So big news for a lot of our customers and a lot of my support guys. The ES6 notifications will be built on a completely new engine, completely redesigned from the ground up. They've teased this for a couple of years. In fact, I think it was Worldwide Technology Meeting maybe 3 years ago where I sat down with a few other resellers and we went through the notification problems and some of our wish list stuff. And from the way they're explaining it, it looks like they've done a really nice job with it. So it's completely new engine, completely new database structure, dedicated to notifications. Currently, and I won't get into too long of an explanation on this, but yeah, as Christoph Romer explained, currently they basically are, they have to search through all the users and groups and everything to see who they need to notify when any event happens, which takes a considerable amount of time. And obviously, if you have thousands of users and a lot of notifications going on, it can really back up a lot and cause a lot of issues. Now this engine is built strictly for the notifications and actually will always work on making sure the notifications are ready to fire. As they say, I think they use the triggers basically to do this. They did give us some nice monitoring for this as well. So you'll have a subscriptions, excuse me, a subscriptions panel. So instead of having to, if you have a user contacts you, they're getting notifications, or maybe they're not getting notifications, and they don't want them or they want them. Instead of having to go track that in that user and figure out what his notifications are set to, or if it's the organization that's getting them and he's getting them because of that, you're able to look at subscriptions, actually filter it by user, and see what the notifications are set to, or what the subscriptions are. So a nice way to manage that. We're able to do event monitoring. So it'll let you know the events as they're occurring, how many notifications are being caused by those events. When's the last time it happened? When's the next time it's going to fire? Outgoing notifications monitoring. So these are the mails that are ready, they're queued, and they're just waiting to be sent as soon as the time hits. So somebody's getting them every hour. You'll see them sitting here and they're going to fire on the hour, and it'll show you that. I think it starts basically at 8 o'clock and on. And you'll see it shows you a preview of what that email is going to look like. And then actually a full history. So you have a history by the user or by date or the status of the emails that ES sent out and what those look like. And I'll actually show you So they had some stuff inside of here. So where that is going to be in the administrative area under System Tools and Notification Monitoring. So you'll see the tabs and you'll see here's my milestone approvals, and basically they just have roles associated with them. So if I choose my user, I don't have any subscriptions right now, but the roles did have subscriptions and show up in here. There's none to generate, none outgoing, but then I did see they had some history here. So you can see the history, what that email looked like. So nice interface, nice to be able to manage that. I know that's always been an issue for our customers where they're basically chasing, trying to figure out if someone's even actually registered to that or not. I wanted to include this because I think it's interesting where they're thinking. Now, this slide's labeled ESX collaboration. So where they're not positive this is going to make it into ES6. This could be an ES7 function. But I thought it was interesting enough that I should show you what they're thinking about here. So they want to add a few different communication channels to ES. One is going to be ES News, so it's a simple channel that broadcasts information to ES users. So basically you'll be able to have a panel where you say, send this message out. So system's under maintenance, it's going to go down in an hour or whatever, and you can set who that's going to. So they'll see something come up in the interface that says important message, system's going to come down in an hour. So there's maybe you're having problems or you need to restart Tomcat or whatever it is. You can send messages out to those users. Again, that could be system will be down this weekend for upgrade, whatever. Finally, a nice way to send those messages out to users. They're looking at putting instant messaging in. And we've talked, I think, at one of our plugin webinars, we kind of showed how we could maybe build messaging in using the plugins. You could do Slack integration or something like that. It looks like they're going to build this in themselves. So instant messaging being duplex communication, both ways, live communication between customers. So you'll be able to have this panel, and this does not exist in the demo server currently that I have access to, but you'll see this kind of messaging panel now, other than the notes panel that we were used to that was added in 5.5, and be able to message users back and forth, invite people in. So some of the session type stuff that we used to have in Dialog Engine, looking to make its way back in, show you who the available users are and add them. So unlike Dialog Engine where you had to actually know what the user's name was and invite them in because there was no pull down, that'll be put in there. And that'll extend inside of Dialog Engine as well. So the viewer inside of ES will have communication channels or messaging built into it. Very nice addition. The new job ticket editor. So last year we got the improvements on the workflow editor. So improved interface. They're doing that now, and ES6 is going to have the job ticket editor in there, which is something they're going to make a lot of use of, and we'll talk about that in upcoming slides. But uses the same technology as a workflow editor, much more intuitive, and I'll just show you a little bit of that. I'm not that well versed in it yet, but if we come to our job tickets, and the one thing that's pretty important, let me pull one up if I remember which one it was. Oh, actually, I'll do the crop. I wish the contact sheet one was working, but it's completely blank, and I'm not sure why. But you see, basically, I mean, this is going to be, what you see is what you get. So as you're building it and you're adding this, and this crop functions in here, and here's your two metadata pieces, you can see that that looks like that. So there's my area here, and this GUI definitely needs some work. I keep losing the image in it, but there it goes. Quickly disappears, but you see, basically, it looks like exactly what we had inside of the job ticket editor. And just to show you how it kind of works, Again, same type of interface as the workflow editor, so you have all your metadata that's available here in the bottom right, all your different settings and properties for this job ticket. Over here in the top right, whether it's a document, upload, folder, what it's available for, global, all those settings are over here. And basically you start off and you see there's one dotted line, very thin dotted line. I mean, I could take and grab whatever metadata I want to in here, drag it there. There's my metadata for that. I can take this area here though, and I could say maybe it's horizontal, and I want to add one. So now I have two. So creation tool, put that there. And then we can just keep adding like that, and maybe that's a full line here. Inside of one, we can set up what the width is, what to load the value from, the scale. All our rules are here, so if we're setting up rules that only show up in certain scenarios, the pop-up's right here. This is also drag and drop, so if I want, no, this one goes on top, I'll put that one on top. I can add a border to it. I can label it. And completely shows you what that's going to look like when it's actually pulled up. So nice work. I've always hated the interface for the job ticket layout the way it is, so this is going to be much nicer, and kind of you don't have to worry about the alignment. The alignment's built into it. You can put minimum widths in and set what the tolerance is for different things. Everything is aligned already for you, so you don't have to do the trick. Even though they still give you the option, you can still do name or value only, but you can pretty much always leave it on all, and you don't have to worry about the alignment. It takes care of the alignment for you. And it's getting late. All right, so a little bit on Twist. So first, a couple of updates. Again, just like last year, they're kind of a little bit in cruise control as far as I'm concerned with Twist. I'd like to see more being done with it now, but we're going to talk about why that is in a little bit. So currently on the new version, you have basically support for XPath 2.0 added to the separam from XML. You have, oops, too many. Come on, there we go. Supporting SFTP input and output now on input files and the transmit tools. PowerTrap does have more logging now, which I'm curious to take a look at. I'm sure Mike Moscato will love to see what this is, and apparently there's a hidden function that'll enable the extra logging. Don't know why they would make it a hidden function. Just give me a button for that, but I guess it generates a lot of logging. From the pre-flight standpoint, they now support the Gantt Workgroup 2015 and packaging profiles. And they have added a few features to separam from RE for things like size max for fonts and a few other things. But so that was about all they really showed us, and said, definitely an underwhelming list. We'd like to maybe see more, but here's what they've been working on. The challenge is, as we know, the job interface is starting to get a bit old, and Christoph went through a presentation where he went back to the old Tickle interface and how long it took them to move from the old original Tickle interface to the Java interface, and now to move to HTML again. It's very difficult, and their question is, basically, how do they do it? So they start looking at the tools themselves, what's being used inside of the Twist editor. And you have the processes view. And as you noted, they have something really similar in the ES Activity Monitor. You have the workflow editor itself, and something very similar, especially with the new interface inside of ES, with the workflow editor that's in ES. The problem for them is they have almost 160 different tools that, for the most part, most of them have a GUI for them. And then you look at tools like PS Check alone, that's all the windows, that's all the GUIs inside of PS Check. So you can imagine other tools that, I mean, PS Check is probably one of the ones that has the most, obviously, but there are other tools that have 2, 3 different GUIs inside of them, different tabs. So that becomes a problem, having to be completely rebuilt. I thought I had another slide in here, but basically one thing they're discussing is that they're reevaluating every tool that Twist uses and are actually maybe combining some tools. So maybe we don't have an output JPEG tool necessarily. Maybe it's just image action since it does the same thing. And some of these tools will all get combined into one tool. But he showed kind of a prototype of ES Twist engine, as he called it, actually running. So this is kind of the processes view inside of ES. The workflow editor, can't really tell the difference that this isn't actually just a ES workflow, but these are a couple of actual Twist tools. Actually, one of the ones he's showing, this is a script, but these are the transmit tool from Twist, for instance. So those being built all into the interface and building the interface and the settings all over here in the right tab, making use of the interface of ES as it was built. So, like I said, definitely a large undertaking. One thing they talked about is actually creating the GUI of each of the tools. And Mike Moscato mentioned this to me just before the webinar. Would have liked to have had that slide in here. But the GUI is basically going to be built using the job ticket editor. So for those of us that build custom tools or need custom tool, it'll be easy to build a custom tool because the job ticket editor is currently in there. And then just to finish up, Jacques did his one more thing presentation. Previous years, his one more thing have had, I think a couple years ago was AI, and we see that in ES now. So we see the artificial intelligence and the automatic tagging of images and the similarity stuff. Last year, he did the Thesaurus. We saw on an earlier slide that the Thesaurus is now going to be part of ES6. So this one was interesting that he actually brought up, because what he actually talked about is, I think there was like 3-4 years ago, he talked about, is ES a dam? And since then, they've made ES a very powerful dam. This year, he's said, is ES a PIM system? So that caught a lot of people in the room's attention. We've worked with integrating ES with PIM systems or pulling information from PIM systems at least. Working with things like Easy Catalog and Mixture of, and it was kind of interesting because I'm really curious to see where they go on this. This was, unfortunately, I wasn't able to get his presentation, but we had a couple of images of it, and this was the last one where he said basically where we stand with it, and we need more graphical components, ability to create channels like e-commerce and catalog, more robust JDBC driver, because obviously people are pulling information in and out of PIM systems, and that being used to connect to ETL systems, ingestion of information, and inversioning of product data sheets. And I think, I'm not even sure, I don't remember if he discussed it, but that's obviously the need also to, typically a PIM system is SKU based, where you have a specific SKU and there may be several images attached to that. It's not just the one asset, like there's several assets attached to a SKU. So you might have, the full 360 images all the way around the product, a video that goes with it, a swatch that's a color swatch or fabric swatches, things like that. So again, just a little food for thought there of directions that Dalim may be going, things we'll see in ES6. Hope everybody got a lot out of that. I think it was a really good event. If you ever are given the opportunity to go to the Worldwide Technology Meeting, we had a couple of new customers there this year who I think really got a lot out of it. It's a great event, great discussions, and definitely nice to be able to meet some of the people we deal with kind of day to day on the Dalim side. Again, this was our last webinar of December. Mike, actually, sorry, are there any questions that you go through?
Yes, there are. There's a few quickies here.
All right.
First one is, you mentioned at the beginning that the S3 behavior has been, for the most part, fixed.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what build number that's included in for the current version?
I don't know the exact build. If one of my guys that's on can jump on our demo server, that's the build that's fixed on. Whatever build our demo server's on, so we can get that out, but I don't know it offhand.
Okay. Another question. This person was interested in the synonym feature that you mentioned, but they're wondering if you can give an example of what it does or what it can do.
What it does, or what
that was something to do with what, the Thesaurus, and you mentioned something about synonyms?
Yes. Yeah. So basically, a thesaurus, can be brought in. Again, you bring this in from like third-party libraries. Like in this case, it's a media topic that he brought in this example, and that. If you look over here for a specific label, there's translations that go along with it, and then each thing, like water, would maybe have synonyms that go for water. So right now, if you tag something with water in ES, you have to search for water. If it doesn't have, if you don't hit it, if you're trying to search for ocean, you're not going to find it. But with my understanding of the way Thesaurus is supposed to work is, now if I type ocean, that's water. So I can find something that's tagged with water, even though I did a search for ocean. If that makes sense.
Makes sense to me.
Okay, hopefully that answered the question.
Okay, so I think you already answered this, but I think the person who asked it was very quick on the draw, and they typed in, what is the use case for the file doesn't exist feature? And I think you already said, I don't know, right?
Yeah, I've never had somebody, I'm trying to find what that slide is. I've never had somebody use it, but basically from my understanding, and I don't know where it is, but is we have customers, and even from our side, and I think this is a little bit more the case in Europe, but we have customers that use front-end systems or JDF to create a project. And when they create the project, they're actually creating the reservations. They know what the file names are going to be for that project. So everything inside of their ES is pre-registered. So if somebody uploads a file that does not exist in ES, it has no place. It's not supposed to be uploaded. That's why it will reject it. So it's mostly for that.
That makes sense.
Huh?
That kind of makes sense.
Yeah, so it's mostly for customers that work that way, where they're registering where files are going to go, and everything exists inside the system because they're tied into another front-end system.
Okay, one last one. I probably could take a wild guess on this, but I don't really know. This one had to do with the shortcuts that you were showing in the HTML5 viewer. And the question was, how are they stored or accessed? Per user or per user profile?
My understanding is per user.
Okay.
I haven't tested that, but that is my understanding. I'm pretty sure that was asked at the event.
And that's it.
And actually, Mike, if you logged on, you could see if this Shift Command R is now part of yours as well with your login. I could do that real quick, actually. I can log in as Mike too.
You might not be able to, because I might have changed my password.
Okay, well, I'll log in as Alex, if he didn't change his password. One thing I've noticed, login on the CS is a little bit slow, but looks like Alex did not change his password, so we're lucky there.
Oh, but that's a good reminder too.
Why? It's a good super secret password. And I'm in as Alex, and yep, reject all is still none. Yeah, per user. And we are in the same profile as I was. So not with the profile, it's with the user. All right. That's it.
Yep.
All right. Again, thanks everybody for joining. Hopefully you got a lot out of that. Again, you can always look at our events page on the Blanchard Systems website to see when our webinars are in case we do move them, which we've done a couple of times in the past, typically third Wednesday of the month. And as soon as we know the topic, we'll get out a reminder for January's and see what we can cover. So I hope everyone has a wonderful Christmas, Hanukkah, Mithras, Festivus, or holiday of your choice. And talk to y'all next time. Bye.